Welcome back to Flight of the Firebirds, Kellenberg's very own sports podcast. I'm your host, Amelia Caban, and today we're diving into the incredible world of endurance running. Joining me is a very special guest who recently completed the New York City Marathon. Today we'll explore these experiences on the course, what motivated him, and the journey to finish the line. If you would like to introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Mr. Vegas, and this is very exciting for me to be here on this podcast. And also, it's the first podcast I've ever done. So I'm really looking forward to answering your questions and talking about something that was really quite an amazing experience that I had.
Well, welcome, and I first want to congratulate you for this amazing feat.
Thank you.
And to start, I wanted to talk about what inspired you to take on the New York City Marathon. Was there a particular moment when you decided to just go for it?
Well, I've been running for a while. I have done a bunch of half marathons. I've done the city half marathon, and last year I ran a bunch of, or the year before I ran a bunch of road runner races. And you can get into the marathon by running 9 specific races and then one volunteer opportunity. And at the end of the year, I found I was just one race short. And I always said that I'm not going to do a marathon. It's too much, it's too much. And then just something hit me. My sister-in-law always jokes, well, you're going to do it, you're going to do it. So then I found, I said, I'm that close. I've done 13.1. I can do this. And so I went for it. I did all the training runs, and it was a great experience meeting a lot of amazing other runners out there from all over. And that's kind of what made me do it. The fact that I was so close. I said, "If I'm this close, why not?"
Yeah. So, with this being your first marathon, which is a huge milestone, how did you prepare for this and how did your training compare to your usual running routine?
That's a good question. Well, I had a lot of help. I've got friends in my running community. My sister-in-law is a big help, big runner there. Mr. Estrella, shout out to Mr. Estrella, who also gave me a lot of tips here. But the big training started about 4 months before the marathon. I followed a plan from an online program, and they basically tailor make your program. You can talk to them; they can adjust as you go. And you start off very small. With my schedule, I ran about 3 times a week, one long run, one speed run, one short run in there, or maintenance run, they call it. And you work all the way up to, in this plan, the longest run I did beforehand was 20 miles. And that was tough. That was about a month before the marathon. And to that point, the last several weeks were 16, 18, 20, just getting longer and longer. Um, and then I took off for a couple weeks for the marathon, trusted the plan, and the words of Mr. Moncada, the shout out, trust the process. And I trusted the training, and it was a little different how I ran. I'm very happy with it. When you run, you might have a goal in mind, but it's really not about wanting to finish in a certain time. It's about the experience that you have. It's about finishing. It's about the people you meet along the way. So it may have been a little slower than I was used to because the elevation on that course is, I think, the most difficult out of all of the world major marathon courses. But I think I'm very happy with how I did, and I really felt pretty good. And I think my training definitely prepared me for running the race and also for being able to recover after the race.
So, talking about other races you ran before this, do you have any in particular favorites you've ran, favorite places you've ran, anything like that?
I mean, I do really love the New York City half marathon because you are literally running through Times Square for part of it. And everybody knows there's no crowd like a New York crowd. It is like a party on the streets from the first mile to the last mile. So I really love that one. And then there's another race I've done for 4 or 5 years in Birmingham, Pennsylvania, the Birmingham Half Marathon. And that's all through Amish country. So it's absolutely beautiful running through all the farmland there. They have a gigantic tent with fresh homemade food and everything. So I enjoy doing that and spending time in that area. So this would be my two favorite, I would say.
Yeah, what a contrast between the two, right?
Got it.
But those New York City crowds, so going back to that, what was it like to run with so many supporters cheering you on the sidelines? And did that energy from the crowd sort of give you a boost?
Yeah, I gotta say, I was getting a little worried, even though I did the training beforehand. And everybody in the running community would say, listen, the crowd, they will carry you. Just you understand, they're going to carry you. And I never understood that until I was in the marathon and I was getting to mile 16, 17, 18. And that's usually when you start to feel it. You're getting close, but then things start to catch up to you. There's a spot towards the end when you're going over the 59th Street Bridge, and there's nobody for like a good mile before, beforehand. And when you go over the bridge, it's just the runners. And that's at, I think, right about close to mile 20 or so, somewhere in there. And at that point, you're starting to get really tired. People are starting, oh, can I do this? Can I do this? And as you start to get towards the end of the bridge, you make a turnaround, all of a sudden, it's just this huge wall of sound. And you turn the corner, and the street is lined, First Avenue is lined with people just screaming your name and just cheering you on. And I I was tired, but at that point in time, you stop thinking about it. And it motivates you for sure.
Mm.
There are other points in time where I felt they carried me, kinda got me to go a little faster.
Yeah.
And it helps you. I mean, I love running in general anyways, but it really helped me to enjoy and take the experience, and even more how much everybody was into running and supporting everybody that was out there on the course. People you'd never met before.
Yeah. Truly, sounds like it builds the bonds between all the people there. And I know it could be physically grueling. So, other than that bridge moment, were there any points during the race where you really felt the challenge? And how did you push through those moments? And how did your faith even contribute to that part of it?
Well, I know that God doesn't put you in places where he knows you can't succeed. And there were definitely some times I questioned myself when I was on that course. I think that the biggest one probably would have been about mile, I think it was 16. At that point in time, things started to hurt. um, Injuries that I had happened beforehand that hadn't crept up started to hit. Starting to cramp a little bit, and then just looking at, oh my gosh, I got to do 10.2 miles of this again to finish. But my mom was somebody who's very important in my faith formation, and she would always say the same thing. So, listen, you just say a little prayer, just believe in it. There's nothing you can't do, and you always get a helping hand from above.
Mhm.
And that definitely was something that certainly helped me to get over that hump. And it's the wall, they say, and you tend to hit a couple of them when you run bigger races like that.
Yeah.
But that definitely helped me to persevere through
Yeah.
that.
That's an inspirational way of thinking about it. And so, off of that, why do you run? Like, what do you run for? Like, what got you into running? And did you ever expect to see yourself running the New York City Marathon when you first started running?
Is a funny story. I used to hate running when I was a
Yeah.
kid. I mean, I played sports. I played basketball, a lot of baseball, and sure you do running drills and stuff. But it's like, no, I don't play soccer. So I don't want to run. That's so boring. But then you get older, and certain things you don't play as much anymore. And I'd always met people who would run, and they would just talk about how peaceful it was and how nice it was. The community was just so supportive. Sometimes you don't get that in other sports as much, but um, the running community, there's nobody like them. Nobody is out for themselves or personal gain. It's all about supporting the person next to you, whether you've known them your whole life or you met them 5 seconds ago on the course. Um, so I started running initially because I used to do endurance obstacle course races like Tough Mudders, Spartan races, all those things. I say, well, I got to start running if I'm going to be able to do these things. So then I ended up doing like a half marathon, the longer half marathon before I did my first Tough Mudders. Okay, great. I can do the miles. I can do this. Then I had a lull, and then I just got back into it a little bit before COVID. Because again, I keep mentioning my sister-in-law, who's a big running inspiration to me, big supporter of mine, and she kind of brought me into the running community. And the more I did, the more I realized it's not just great for you physically, it's awesome mentally. They talk about the runner's high, and there's nothing like it. Just breathing in the fresh air, just having that pure adrenaline. Just you know, it sounds kind of corny, but being one with nature and the outdoors, like where you are, it just has a way of settling and soothing you. But when I started, no, I never had any dreams of doing a marathon.
Yeah.
Never ever thought I would.
Mhm.
But I can say I am very, very happy that I decided to make that plunge. I have no regrets about that at all.
Which is so cool because something you never, like, imagined, and this is where you're here and just made this incredible feat, you know? Back to Mr. Moncada, trust the process, right?
Exactly. He's onto something there.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um, Are there any moments or sights from the race that really stood out to you? And because the New York City course is so unique, and with all the different neighborhoods, what caught you?
The first thing that caught me was before the race started, when you get into your corral and you're all kind of stuck in this one little area, and then they open the gates and there's actually a bunch of military personnel there in the front, and they're kind of gradually like leading you to different stations that get you to the starting line. And so I was right in the very front of the waves, right where the starting line was, and I turned around and all you could see was just a sea of runners, like everywhere, thousands of them, which was just mind blowing to me to just get the, oh my gosh, there really are so many people running this race. And this is what it was like for all the other ways to have been before me. Oh my gosh. So that stood out to me.
Mhm.
Um, one of the last turns you take off of Fifth Avenue when you're going up by Central Park, that that hit me too. At that point in time, as I was in the last wave there, it was starting to get dark. So seeing the city lights, how beautiful that was, and with
Yeah.
everybody lined up down the street and all the way until you got into Central Park, all the way up through when you got to the finish line was one. Uh, the Bronx, that was a lot of fun. I think the Bronx was probably the loudest area of the
Oh, yeah,
course.
definitely.
Uh, one of the things that I did that people recommended was put your name on your shirt because if you're like getting tired, people just and they did the whole course. They're yelling at my name. I mean, I ran through the NYPD. So hey NYPD, I see you over there. You got to go faster. You got this. So I mean, they're really good with that in the Bronx. But those definitely are some things that stood out along the course for sure, amongst many others.
Yeah, totally moments that, will stay with you for the rest of your life. I mean, that idea with the name on the shirt is so smart. I haven't even seen anything like that.
Yeah, it was great. Great.
So, what advice would you give someone thinking about getting into running or possibly wanting to do a marathon, especially their first?
Don't think about it. Just do it. We think about stuff like this so much sometimes that you just find ways of talking yourself out of it. Like, oh, well, I don't like this, so maybe I don't like that. No, just do it. Running is great for your health, as I said, physical health, but also for your mental well being. It is, if you want to find a place with supportive people, with positive people, I mean, the running community, it gets no better than that. Um, if you want to start, find some people that run. Maybe you got friends. Go for a run with them. Start small. Start off with doing a little 5K race. Build yourself up. Do a couple 10Ks. Eventually work your way up to half marathon, and then find a plan. But um, definitely talk to people who you know are into running, and you're going to find that they could talk your ear off nonstop. We have no problem doing that, and we love it. We love it when people ask us questions. And so we're happy to help and uh, enjoy the process. Enjoy it. Don't think of. I mean, everything is maybe going to be a challenge as you get to the races and such or the distances, but don't think of it as a chore. Just find the little joys that you have along the way, and everybody's joy is going to be a little bit different, but there's definitely something that everybody can find, and running is a lifelong thing. You can always do it, and when you can't run, you walk. When you can't walk, you crawl, but it's always there. It's always there.
Yeah. So then the last thing I was wondering was I wanted to know about the feeling you felt when you crossed the finish line because I can't even imagine what that must have felt. I don't know if it's relief, it's like excitement. How is that?
The last point 2 miles is like sometimes like the longest stretch. Like you're there, but you're not quite there. But when I turned the corner and then you saw the jumbotron, you saw the finish line, all the people and the photographers and such. I just like my face. It just lit up. It's like this is really happening. It's right there. I don't care that I'm about to cramp up. It's right there, and you start going faster, and I crossed that finish line, and it was like I let out a nice monstrous yell out of that. Like, it's great. Probably scared people next to me, but um, it was such a euphoric feeling.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a feeling I will never forget.
Mhm.
Uh, that I set my mind to do something that I thought I could never do. I accomplished something that I think the statistic is 0.01% of the people in the world have run a marathon.
Wow. Yeah.
So I said, all right, cool. I'm part of that club now. But just the fact that I knew I pushed myself to do something that never had a thought was possible, and that I had so many amazing people who I didn't know along the course sharing with me, and that I just talked to as I was running, and also my family that was there, that I saw at multiple points, that were there to support me during the race.
Yeah.
It was a feeling like no other. It was amazing.
Yeah. I can't even imagine. But as we're coming to the end, I have something that I've been, doing every episode. So I'm gonna hit you with a few rapid fire questions. All
Gosh,
right.
I'm under the wire here.
All right. Are you ready?
As ready as I can be.
All right. What is your favorite city you've ever visited?
L.A.
Wow. What about the last book you couldn't put down?
It was the Black Echo Harry Bosch series.
If you could have dinner with one historical figure, who would it be?
Oh my gosh, one historical figure. George Washington.
Solid pick. What's your go-to post-run food?
My go-to post-run food is pasta. Love
Yeah.
pasta.
um, if you could time travel to any era, which era would it be?
Totally the 1920s. Totally.
And what is your favorite holiday?
Christmas.
Yeah.
Love Christmas.
Yep.
Love it.
Yep. Super excited. Well, I want to thank you again for sharing your marathon stories with me today. Hearing about your dedication, motivation, and the challenges you've overcome is truly inspiring. And congratulations once again on completing the New York City Marathon and achieving such a phenomenal accomplishment. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to this episode of The Flight of the Firebirds. I'm Amelia Caban, and I'll see you next time.